Welcome to Color Me Happy podcast. My name is Brandi Hofer, your host. Thank you so much for being here this evening. It's one of those, I'm going to switch the lights off here in my studio. Romantic recordings where I record by myself because I am writing usually. And I actually was on a long drive today and I had some time to miraculously, some of my boys fell asleep in the back and put in my headphones and just write in my notebook. So I'm just here kind of translating all that because I was actually asked to speak, which is kind of like the first time I've been approached to speak, but it's like the first time where someone's like, oh, you host a podcast and you wrote a book, will you come speak? Sort of deal, because today is, we call it Kindness Wins in our community. It is Pink Shirt Day, Anti-Bullying Day, and so we are a part of Kindness Wins, and in partnership with Lloydminster and District Co-op. So I'm their representative for the last 3 seasons, and I make these really fun shirts that I think there's, not counting this year, 5,000 out right now in our community. So there's probably going to be around 7 after this year, which is pretty nuts because it's just such a beautiful thing. The symbolism and what it stands for is really, really powerful. And a few years ago, they shifted it from anti-bullying and to stop bullying into Kindness Wins because it's just, it just has more, it has more positive energy. And I'm going to talk about what it means this year. The design, it's like a number of building blocks on top of one another. And so when I think of this and when I thought of kindness, and I kept coming back to, well, like, why does bullying happen? And typically, and I'm no expert, but in most cases, I want to say that it's for the reason that the person, something about you, that person just can't handle. And it's saying something about themselves, right? So this is like a broad generalization, of course. There are so many unique circumstances. And so what the design symbolizes this year is self-love, the building blocks of accepting who you are. And each one represents, the good, the bad, the light, the dark, all parts of you, because they're all important. They represent who you are, how you got here, the hard parts. Like you wouldn't be here and you wouldn't be so resilient without that struggle. And you wouldn't be brave enough without overcoming the fear, right? So that's what this year represents. And we always include the fingerprint, the thumbprint, because we are all unique. And we were all, it's pretty crazy how we're all even here. Like, so that's, and then the rainbow, because without the rain, there wouldn't be, well, actually, that's not really true. But that's what, the saying goes, without rain, no rainbow, right? So, and inclusion and diversity and kindness, that's what that represents. So I'm putting together this presentation and I'm going to practice it out because you guys are so great. So I'm going to do some, I'm just going to do it. I'm a little bit nervous, obviously. Okay, so a lot of you know I'm an artist. Yeah. Big surprise. And I'm really happy to be part of this community because I'm speaking in my community. There's no place I'd rather be than somewhere warm in February. Am I right? That's my joke. Actually, my husband and I always, since we've been together, so a super long time, since 2006, so a long time. And we always joke who's funnier because he's like, I got funniest grad in 2002. And I'm like, oh, good for you. And I'm like, well, who's holding the microphone? Who's holding the microphone now? And he also doesn't think that's funny. But you know. So I'm married, and my husband's name is Carly. That's what they called his grandpa, and so that's what we call him. It's actually Charles, but I want to tell you the story of our first dinner with his parents. So I'm going to paint a little picture for you. And I tell the full story in my book, but I want to paint a little picture for you. I had a black faux hawk, a lip and a nose ring. So I was like, you know, in that stage of my 20s and sort of edgy and whatever I was going through. Like maybe not loving myself so much and masking it with hair dye. I don't know. Anyway, that's what I was rocking at the time. Edgy. And so here I meet this guy who just happens to be from also my hometown. And I was actually waitressing with his sister at a restaurant, and we were just talking because I was leaving in 2 months to go to NASCAD University in Halifax, and I was just working to make money in my hometown for the summer. And we were talking. She's like, "Oh, my brother's coming home, and he just broke up with la la la." And I'm just like, "Oh, cool, yeah, well, you know." And I'm just looking for something short because I'm leaving. And she's like, "Perfect. He just got out of something long term, so he's looking for a fling too." And obviously, we are together now, so you kind of know what happened. Anyway, so it's just how life works. You try to plan something spontaneous, and it works out really long term, and vice versa, right? Okay, so we start dating. I don't even know what you call it. He's not very romantic. Sorry, Carly, but you're not very romantic. And so we go. It's very nice. It's summer. He invites me over to like a barbecue, and we barbecue and we visit, and it's just he and I and his parents, and we're like super gross, like in love for sure, in lust and in love. And I am rubbing his foot under the table all night, just looking at him and like, oh, he's so hot. And and we had dinner. We sat there talking with his parents the whole dinner, and I looked down under the table and observed that Dwayne, his dad, was wearing socks, and Carly was not wearing socks. And I had been rubbing a socked foot all night. So I was just like, oh, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And I just, like, I was so embarrassed. It was so embarrassing. And his dad just like waggled his eyebrows, and we all laughed. And whether he enjoyed it or whether he was trying to save me from embarrassment, we will never know. Probably a bit of both, really. So, oh gosh. Okay, so my husband and I love him. He just kind of glides through life with ease. I'm going to say that because he just does, and it's not really fair, but he's poking in right now. So stop poking your head in.
Go on.
No.
See what you have to say.
No. I'm not telling my jokes while you're here because they're all at your expense. Okay. So we have 3 boys. We've ended up with 3 boys. Yeah. Did I guess that was going to happen with the faux hawk and the lip ring and all that stuff? No. Absolutely not. But it happened because life is hilarious. So we have these 3 very energetic, lovely boys, and so our days are full. And so I have a lot going on, obviously. Podcast, muralist, artist, educator, whole author, whatever. I can't even remember what I do anymore. And so at night, one of these nights, I was like, oh, like there's a birthday party tomorrow, and the hockey and the things, and I have to do this and that and that, and I can't sleep. It's all I'm thinking about. Hey babe, are you still awake? What are you thinking about? What are you thinking about? I can't sleep. What are you thinking about? And he's like, I know. I can't sleep either. I think I'm going to have to change the curve on my hockey stick. And that just sums up our whole relationship right there. And he's fucking standing something above my head right now. He knows I'm podcasting. Cool, man. Anyways, it just sums up everything we do and how we move through life. I'm just like running around with 10,000 things, and he's like playing on his phone in the chair, happy as a clam. Right. I'm sure a lot of you can understand, and I know you can hear the sander, but I'm going to keep going because I have to put the two others to bed soon, and I only have like 10 minutes left to finish my stories. Okay, so now my plan is, because I'm doing the presentation, so hopefully I at least made you smile, because it's supposed to make people laugh and feel at ease. That's the point of a joke in a presentation, I think. I don't know, I've never really given any. Okay, you guys already know my secret. I will tell you everything and be honest all the time. I want to transition into that because in the midst of us having children, we also had some great losses. Right before our first son was born, Gus, I lost my mom to cancer. And right following the birth of our second son, Finn, we lost Dwayne, the one whose foot I rubbed under the table. And they were both really, like, amazing individuals, and made impacts on huge impacts on so many people's lives, and we wish we could have them around, but it's just not the case, and that's just not how life works. So what we've taken away from that is that time is our most precious commodity, and we live life in this way to the best of our ability. So those were really impactful moments for us. Moment that held momentous reason, moments that can change your life as you know it. For example, when everyone tells you that when you're in love, you just know, and then you don't know until you experience it for the very first time, and you can just feel it to your very core. I remember in his parents' garage saying I love you for the first time, and then hopping on a flight to Halifax. That fucker is making so much noise. Okay, and I'm trying to tell a story about how much I love him. Like, what in the F? So that moment, when you know what love is, that's an impactful moment. When your baby gets laid on your chest and they're breathing and crying and real and full of life. That moment holds so much joy and relief and reminds you what it really is to be alive. Or in the midst of having babies, you lose the people you love. The highest of highs met with the lowest of lows. When we get caught up in the rigamarole of all the small things, we can sometimes forget what a miracle it takes to be here every day. There is nothing more extraordinary than the simple fact that we are alive and we will one day cease to exist. It is a delicate balance in which we hang on the edge. The last eve of my mother's life seems a faraway memory, and I keep it locked, buried deep. Recalling fierce emotion, an erupting wound that refuses to clot, leaking blood with no resolution in sight. And I don't want to open that tonight with you here, or in that boardroom that I will be speaking in tomorrow, because I have a lot to talk about and I don't want to just fall apart. But you can catch that whole chapter in my book where I continue on speaking of that moment in my life. Yet somehow, through all of that, and unexpectedly, through the throes of grief, I found strength. Strength for my own newborn baby when I held him in my arms. Gus, I had presented with the highest form of gift, that I will hold in my own hands the small joys, the small moments, the moments that add up to a lifetime of love. My mother can never be replaced, but she lives on through me, and she will live on through my children, who are right next to me right now. Hi, Teddy. Hi. Are you being a sander? I think the sander's loud enough as it is. Yeah. My hands have a purpose now, just as my mother's did, just as her mother's did, and hers before that. Gus always longed to be held, and I was happy to oblige, sleeping through many nights as his tiny hand clutched my finger, or... Fuck, the sander. Oh, yeah, so... I need quiet, and an hour at work tonight doesn't always fly when you have 3 little kids. Ever, actually. Maybe never, ever. But actually, this Sunday, the Sean Newman one, I have the next episodes with Sean Newman, and I think I left it for so long that I forgot about it, because there were so many times I got interrupted by my children, and it's like a year old or more. And I just forgot how hard it was when they were even smaller. So I actually have it pretty good now compared to what it was, because, yeah, they interrupted that Sean one like at least 8 times. It was a rough one. But the episode turned out great, and super raw and real is what you expect here. Okay, now trying to be serious. Okay. My hands have purpose now, just as my mother's did. My hands have so much fucking purpose now, just as my mother's did. She had 3. She gets it, except my dad was a chef, so he wasn't home a lot. Just as her mother's did, and hers before that. Gus, my first baby, always longed to be held, and I was happy to oblige, sleeping through many nights as with his tiny hand clutching to my finger, as his head lay on my chest and our hearts beat as one. Finn. His soft little cheek is always nuzzling into my palm as he once again declares that he loves me the most. My hand that gently strokes the soft skin of Teddy's eyelids, my last baby, as I sing him a quiet lullaby and whisper the secret I reserve only for them, that every parent knows that there is nothing in this world that you could ever love more. With my 3 boys now who are 7, 5, and 2, everything is flying by in a blur, like race cars in a rainbow of color zooming past your face. Every moment is an adventure, as I witness things for the very first time through their eyes. Life moves in sporadic, unpredictable, emotionally charged events that lie in the hands of my tiny humans, who can, at the drop of a hat, make you roll over in laughter or weep from the exhaustion of it all. A roller coaster I gladly hop on at 6 a.m. every day, not knowing what highs and lows are to come until the very last moment, when everything plummets into the depth, taking hold of your every fracture of your being, reminding you all of the all-consuming, exhilarating fact that you are alive. And what we can take away here is that time is our most precious commodity. A very wise woman said to me once, "The only thing I know for certain is that the sun will rise and set. The rest is beyond my control." My mom's older sister and my Auntie Gwen. There are things that you are in control of in this life. You are in control. And in the midst of all those very impactful moments in our lives, I learned many things. And a lot of it came back to taking care of me. I know people say that it's selfish to think of yourself and take care of yourself. But from my understanding, you have to take care of yourself first, or you cannot take care of others. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Because if you take care of you, you have something left to give. And that's why we talk about kindness, and kindness to yourself. And I think kindness to yourself may be the most difficult thing of all. We are so hard on ourselves, and society makes it easier today. I mean, it's not like you walk by the mirror and you're like, damn, girl. Like, we just, pick our, personally, I'm speaking from personal experience, I tend to pick myself apart. Nothing will be good enough. So I started with taking care of myself to the best of my ability. And what does that look like? And that means taking time to myself, definitely. Clearly, I'm not getting a lot, but I'm sneaking it in, and I'm actually demanding time for myself. I demand it. I move my body every day. That is my meditation and my saving grace. And I make time for connection with other human beings. And I make time for reading and art and doing the things that I enjoy. Your day actually should consist of all of these things. All of these things should fit into one 24-hour period, because when you're happy, everyone can be happy. There's room for everyone to enjoy themselves. I actually read this book once. It was Happiest Toddler on the Block, and I learned so much from a parenting book. And his best advice was to play the boob. And it's so much easier to get angry when it comes to raising children, and that's your go-to is don't, and you can't, and we shouldn't, and this other person's looking at us, and it takes a little and not a lot more, just a little more effort to play the boob. Like, if they're not getting ready, I usually make it into some sort of race. Like, oh my gosh, Finn is getting his shoes on first. Make sure you grab your shoes or Finn's gonna beat ya. Something like so easy. Instead of, oh, you guys are the worst, you take forever to get ready and we have to go. Get going, right? And bonus. This is not in my speech for tomorrow. I went on a tangent. Bonus, when you do this, you feel good about yourselves, right? So when we speak about kindness and your day, you have to think of the root of it all. And like I said at the beginning, where does bullying start? And I kind of got this from, we went to this bullying conference, and I'm sure I have problems with nouns and titles, by the way, if you haven't noticed. We went to this bullying conference in one of my jobs. I was in marketing for a bit, and this woman was going around giving speeches like I'm about to go do tomorrow, which is hilarious. I never thought that would happen. And she worked at the White House, and she was bullied for years. And she made this giant binder about all the things, and finally she had come around to finding the solution and talking to people about it. My takeaway from the very big presentation was that, and she did say this, but this is my what am I trying to say? My interpretation of the event. Very long presentation short is that, and I'm definitely not saying avoid hard things in life, because I'm not. But if you're in a situation where someone is not being kind to you, and or they continually have shown you that they suck and they're an asshole, is you avoid them. You don't go near them. You don't go out of your way to memorize their coffee order. You don't message them. You don't, block them on the things so you're not even reminded of them. If you have to see them every day, I don't know, try to move offices or get a different career. If you're married to them, don't be. Stuff like that. That is what I took away from the bullying conference, is that it has nothing to do with you, and everything to do with them. So what do we know? We sure shit can't control others, right? So when we talk about loving yourself, you deserve the best. And if someone's not giving you their best, they don't deserve your time. I'm going to include this in my presentation tomorrow. It's important. Yes. When we talk about kindness, I think so. Toxic relationships, out. You don't have time because, as we know and as we talk about all the time in my book and my podcast, time is our most precious commodity. And you sure shit not going to waste it on them. All right. A little fire in this episode. Here we go. Okay. Okay, so expanding on kindness and yourself. Once you start on the foundations and the building blocks and accepting who you are, the wonderful, amazing person that you are, with all this experience and knowledge and how you got to where you are, and you're taking care of yourself and you're feeling good and all of that, you can start helping others. And the coolest, not when you've done all of that. I feel like you should do this all along, because it's like this big circle, this love circle of love. That's exactly what I'm going to say tomorrow. Love circle of love. Spreading kindness. You always think it's like helping others. But gratitude is really powerful. Gratitude. And when we talk about bravery and putting yourself out there, it can mean a wave. It doesn't really have to be monetary. And that's what I always teach our students in Art Academy. We always talk about these things at the beginning of class. Kindness can mean so many things. It can mean kindness to yourself, kindness to others in ways of a compliment, holding a door. It is like magic. And gratitude for yourself and who you are, and gratitude for others and your world is really, really, really powerful. It's almost like magic. And the best way, and I have a chapter of this, it's called I Get To in my book. The best way to practice gratitude is kind of through the law of subtraction. So if I had never schemed up with my husband's sister, my sister-in-law, that we should have a fling, or rubbed his dad's foot, or if I didn't have my husband, if all that didn't happen, all of this wouldn't be happening in my life. I'd definitely not live here, probably. I probably wouldn't have had all that time with my mom. I probably would have graduated from art school and gone to live in a large city where there were lots of other artists and galleries. But I love where I live, and I'm so grateful for it. I have a very special community. Obviously, they ask me to speak places. They love me too, and I love them. It's a special place. And very gracious. So when you take things away, that is a great way to think of it. And then when you say, our I get tos. So, my I get tos look way different than yours, of course. But we went out of town last night and we slept in a nice place. It was okay. But I'm just getting kind of oldish in the way that, if it's the sheets and the pillows aren't right, and it's not dark enough, or there's noises or whatever, or I don't have a proper bath, oh my gosh. So I don't have a good sleep, and I love sleeping, and of course it's essential to being a good parent and a good person, and freaking rocking my day. Also a chapter in my book. Sleep is priority number 1 in life. But I won't talk about that now. Read my freaking book or listen to it if you haven't already. There's some really great advice in it. My husband just came in. He lost Teddy. Teddy, that little effer, We were at the mall because we were out of town. We were at a different mall to see the Lego store. He likes to hide in racks silently. We lost him like 4 times. And now he's hiding on my husband, which actually lights me up inside. Okay, I love my husband, but also we've been together a really long time. So there are small things that I just take glory and pleasure in. And when Teddy outwits him, that is one of those times. Okay, so I get to today is I get to go have a bath, a nice big bubble tub, read my book, hop into my sheets, cotton, not multi-fiber, microfiber. There we go. That makes you hot as hell and sweat. I like cotton in high thread counts, for sure. All the good sheets and my special noise machine and my book, and then I get to get up in my own home and get back into my routine. And actually not my routine. I will let you in on a little secret. Tomorrow is this kind of special day because I get to speak at this thing. Grandpa's coming to play with the boys, and I actually have on my podcast. Oh, should I keep it a secret? I'm not very good with secrets. Okay, if you listen, you're in on the secret because you're special because you're here. Andrew Salgado, one of my long time. If you're an artist, you probably know who this is. If you're not, look him up. He's originally from Regina. He is a Canadian artist who does these spectacular paintings and he's a big deal. And he is coming on. We have been like Instagram friends for years and years and years. And I actually got to meet him in Toronto when he had his solo show. And anyway, I'm very excited to interview him. He's writing a book. Can't wait to hear about it. He actually got picked up by Margaret Atwood's publisher, which is really sweet. So proud of him. That's very cool. Love to see people thrive in what they're doing. It's just incredible. And he actually sent me a little blip of his book, and it was like painting with words. Amazing. Can't wait to read it. I hope he does an audiobook version because I can't read shit these days, really. I'm trying again. It's my new goal. I got my Kindle fired up. I'm ready to read again. I was just really tired there for a bit with all the kids and this stuff. Okay, have I gotten to my get-tos? Okay, so I get to do all these cool things. I'm happy as a clam, and I practice my I get-tos every day. I want you to think about your I get-tos. They can be really small and simple because the simple fact is in this world, if you're listening to a podcast and you're in a safe place, your I get-tos are really strong because there's some things happening in our world where people don't have the simple glory of being safe in their own homes. So, we've got a lot to be grateful for every single day. And I'm not talking about just being all sunshine and rainbows all the time because it's not realistic. But take that space for yourself. Sit in your gratitude because you are lucky to be here where you are today. Safe. Okay, so because I'm where I'm going to an office space always makes me think of the old movie. Dates me. Office Space. Okay, so what can I do? I'm just sitting in an office. That's my line. Well, I know actually where I'm going to speak is there are some really special people because I just had meetings with some people from their office and they are doing really incredible things in our community and supporting some of the things that I'm doing in the community, which is really special. 2,600-foot mural project this year in Truth and Reconciliation. Choose Love and Join Hands in Truth and Reconciliation. That is what we titled it, and it's very special. So they are in the midst of possibly supporting that, and so I've met some incredible people from their office. So I have this beautiful quote that I just heard on this Netflix special, and I actually, all you listeners who love to be inspired, live to lead. So Ruth Bader Ginsburg gives it's like a quick 20-minute episode. It's brought to you by the Duke and Duchess. And Harry and oh my gosh, why do I always blank on names? Like, she's the biggest deal. Okay, Meghan Markle, there we go. Gosh, Harry and Meghan, duh. They're only the hottest thing right now. Come on, Brandi. Okay, so they presented this special on Netflix, and I'm beyond their recent special about their lives, another one. So they are trying to change the world in a positive way. Go, Harry and Meghan. Love it. Okay. So there's this great quote by Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and she says, "Whatever you do, whatever line of work you choose, always do something outside of yourself. You are a member of a community. You are blessed with having certain talents. You should use your education and your talent to help make things a little better for people who are not as fortunate as you are." And that goes back to what we talked about today. Once you are comfortable in the self-care and the building blocks of who you are, the foundation of who you are, you have so much to give. And when you give your love for yourself, your surroundings, your life, it just grows and grows and grows. And trust me, because I've been working really, really hard on this for the past few years. I dived hard into the self-care and self-help world of learning because I felt so afraid all the time, and I was sitting in that lack and fear-based mindset, and it was toxic, and I was not being my best self. And I want to be the best example I can be, not just for myself, but for my family and my children. And I want a world that they can be in, and a world that they feel safe in. And it's just so important to me because, there really is, and the only way I can describe it is there is magic floating all around. I know we can't see it or feel it, but it's around you in little bits and pieces. All you have to do is reach beyond your fears, beyond what you ever imagined for yourself, beyond everything you know. Grasp it in your hand. And then and only then will you see your everyday, ordinary life as extraordinary. Thank you so much for being here. I sure do appreciate your time.